Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Donna Blanchard.
And I'm your co-host, Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll cover the Downtown Forum program on Kakaako. It was called Finally Finding Our Future in Kakaako.
The program was presented at Lani Akea. It included a dozen speakers and was focused on the transformation of Kakaako.
The moderator was Steve Petranek, editor of Hawaii Business Magazine. And the panel was a who's who on Kakaako, including Keli'i Akina of Grassroot Institute, Tom Apple, Chancellor of UH Manoa, which includes Kakaako, George Atta of the City Department of Planning and Permitting, Tony Ching of the Hawaii Community Development Authority, and Joe Ferraro of Ferraro and Choi Architects.
The speakers also included Mike Formby of the City Department of Transportation Services, Carol Fukunaga of the Honolulu City Council, Elizabeth Hokado of Kamehamehas Schools, Michelle Matson of the Oahu Island Parks Conservancy, Randle of Howard Hughes Corporation, and Stender of OHA.
As they say, we all have a stake in Kakaako. Maybe that's why so many people showed up at Lani Akea for the program. We had more than 150 people in the crowd.
As with the national trend, there are more people who are seeking to abandon the notion of urban sprawl, or suburban sprawl, however you want to look at it, and return to the city core. And these are patterns that exist in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, so our major cities. Honolulu, no less. That is also happening that we've reversed the trend where more people are moving into town versus seeking the suburban life. You're going to see a chart come up that shows that our population has been growing, and when people say too much too fast, this is a phenomenon that has been happening since the 90s. That population in Kakaako has grown. The next slide, because I'm still trying to underperform, is about work, and it's going to say that there's about 1,260 businesses in Kakaako, of which over 90% of them happen to be small businesses or 10 and under. At the max, it'll be 49 employees and under.
You know that HCDA is technically not the city and county of Honolulu's jurisdiction, but the city streets, they start outside Kakaako and they go through Kakaako and end on the other side. Our bus system starts outside Kakaako, goes through Kakaako, and ends up at bus stops outside of Kakaako. Same for the rail system we're building. George and I sit on the rail board. The rail system starts in Ewa, will go through Kakaako, and for now end at Ala Moana before eventually being extended up to UH. Handy van system the same way. Same for sidewalks, bike lanes, bikeways, and for people. So yes, we're building for a community in Kakaako where we want people to be able to live, work, and play, where we want people to be able to age in place. We want to work with Tony and HCDA. And Tony, by the way, has been a great partner with the city on our Complete Streets initiatives. He's allowed us to meet with the developers and work with them on how we best plan for a transit-oriented future. And so there's many principles that we're implementing at the city and county level that apply to HCDA, even though we don't have jurisdiction over it. And I'll just say that Tony and HCDA have been really good about reaching out to the city, letting us be part of the conversation, and it's our goal to be part of the solution.
One of the things I've learned from condo residents is that they are affected by issues in a way that's much different from how residents in single-family homes are affected. For example, take noise. You may have some perfectly melodic sounds emanating from a ground floor location, but 15 stories or 20 stories up, it's an entirely different matter when that same music can turn into a very noisily intrusive and unwelcome guest in your living room or bedroom. The same thing with traffic, where in most neighborhoods, you would never expect that you would be blocked from getting in and out of your driveway when you wanted to go somewhere. In condo communities, typically with traffic congestion on the roads, you either cannot leave or you cannot return home. That's one of the reasons why around Ala Moana Center, they stop all road construction before the Christmas holiday season.
I could talk about Kamehamehas master plan for 9 blocks in Kakaako. About 2,900 residential units, 375,000 square feet of commercial space, But we're building more than buildings in Kakaako. Kamehamehas Schools is building a 21st century urban neighborhood for Hawaii's families. So we're building on the past in a new way. Kamehameha Schools has been here a very, very long time, as you know, more than a century. So when we think about Kakaako, we do reference the past, and we're thinking, for example, of the past as we name SALT, which will be the commercial hub of our part of Kakaako. SALT refers to the salt ponds of our kupuna, who produce salt for local use, for voyaging, for global trade. We're also building on a more recent past when Kakaako was a vibrant community for ethnic camps, served by small mom-and-pop businesses, where slack key guitar and barefoot football flourished. We're bringing that energy forward to foster innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship in today's Kakaako, with Hawaii's first free high-speed district Wi-Fi installed by a local company, Hawaii Dialogics Telecom.
My word that I chose for today's discussion is revitalize. I think many of us here, actually all of us on this panel, have the unique responsibility and ability to be part of a revitalization of a place that we hold dear. I think if I asked for a raise of hands of people who thought that Honolulu could not be one of the best cities in the world, I wouldn't see many, because it can. And the definition there is something that I get to do every day, to be a part of making Honolulu an energetic place again, giving it life, giving it new life, and making it a healthier place to live. On the next image is just a map to remind us of where we are. We represent about 60 acres at the Howard Hughes Corporation within the Kakaako district, and it's a fantastic 60 acres with rich history and opportunity for growth. I love this place, and I think many of you do too, and you think of those things that you get to do in Honolulu that you can't do in other cities. You think of February, when you can stand up paddle in the lagoon at Ala Moana Beach Park.
My key word is capacity. The basic foundation in developing, building, and sustaining successful communities is reliable and wholly adequate infrastructure, including a proven, sufficient, and sustainable water supply, an environmentally effective wastewater system, K through 12 schools that ensure educational advancement for our future generations, and sufficient green, recreational, open space to sustain the health and welfare of our young families and kupuna alike. Comprehensive planning can establish all these things, but it must be in place before all else. What is presently fast-tracked in Kakaako will set a precedent for overcrowding if there is not a paradigm shift from piecemeal permitting to comprehensive planning. The city needs to have a larger role in this. Kakaako's residents are openly resisting the increasing and overpowering density as it emerges from the drawing boards.
The University of Hawaii at Manoa has, of course, a huge investment in Kakaako, really stemming from, I think you can go back to Dean Cadman at the medical school, who had the vision to put the health sciences, and we have our wonderful medical school in Kakaako and our beautiful new cancer center, which is really a jewel, and I can say, I think even humbly, the best cancer center in the world, with all humility. But we have some tremendous hopes for the area going forward, and I guess my key word would be partnership, because as I look around, I've heard everything that I'm hoping for in Kakaako. I've heard some of our other speakers speak about, and I think we all have great plans for the area, and it's going to be really important that we partner. We do a little horse trading, we do a lot of communication, compromise, and so on, that'll help us build this into a really exciting, innovative place. We certainly see this as a future of innovation, particularly as you would guess in the health sciences. We see this as an incubation space to grow some of our. We do about $75 million a year in research in Kakaako.
I'm a perpetual optimist, so I'd like to focus more on the future than any of the current problems, because I think we as a community will solve the current problems, and whichever way we have to, we'll solve the problems. So I'd like to think that having a clearer vision of the future will help us solve the problems in the most efficient and promising kinds of ways. As I look at Kakaako, and I think comprehensively it represents a great urban laboratory to develop a new kind of urban community. And I think the element that's been most missing is looking at the opportunities of the verticality of an urban lifestyle. Because even looking at the park dedication issues, there's only so much land, and we don't grow more land. So as more people come in, we can't meet the kinds of standards that we set for ourselves. So in order to address the issue, because the problems of open space don't go away, so I'm thinking that we have to start looking at the surfaces of our high-rise buildings, at the tops of the podium decks, rooftops, as places where a lot of other things can happen, whether it's energy generation, food generation, or open space and recreation.
Our vision is to develop these properties along the harbor for commercial uses, similar if you've been to San Francisco, Pier 39. That would be the concept, which is a 2-story restaurant and small businesses in that facility. Of course, the wedding chapel will be there because it's got another 40 years to go. The university will be there for another 30 years, and they pay $1. So, and then the rest of it we could develop. So in trying to do the economics, we find that the commercial zoning for all those parcels along the shoreline is quite a big number. And we don't think we could, the marketing would absorb all of that. So we have to think of other uses.
Kakaako, we see coming together the history and the future of Hawaii. And how we manage Kakaako and the decisions that must be made really is a pattern for how we will go forward in the future of Hawaii. One of the things that I think you must be impressed with today with our tremendous panel is the great opportunity. Don't you see all of that opportunity there is for Hawaii as a state and Honolulu as a city? But there's also been an undercurrent a little bit that there are also some concerns. There are competing interests, and we need to bring both that opportunity and the competing interests to the table. And that's why I want to commend all of you here, Jay Fidel with ThinkTech Hawaii, and all of you who support this wonderful movement, that we can carry on the conversation, which is what I'm doing here. I represent a think tank, and we have the luxury of the fact that we can sit down and think about the past and the future and what is the greater good. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs has emerged in the Kakaako development with a new identity. To some people, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs has been a benefits agency, an important one for Native Hawaiian people. To others, it has been the preserver of a cultural heritage, the host people here in Hawaii. But it's important to understand that there's another identity that has emerged, a very important one that wasn't there for 30 years, that has now come to them as one of Hawaii's fastest landowners as well as growing developers, and that is the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is a landowner and developer.
So I'll start by saying, obviously there's a physical limitation, and that is Moana Boulevard, and that's state property. So the city has to work with the Hawaii Department of Transportation anytime we want to put a crosswalk or a traffic light across Moana Boulevard. So it is a physical limitation, and I think because it's a physical limitation, it's a mental barrier to many people as well, and that was true for downtown when it came to the Aloha Tower Marketplace. You know, they built it and they thought many people would always walk across the highway to go shop and eat, and it just didn't happen. So from the transportation side, it's a physical barrier, but I think other people can speak better to the maybe the mental barrier associated with the highway.
As Mike indicated, Moana Boulevard is a state highway, and it's a major truck route connecting and bringing supplies into Waikiki. It's also very congested, as you all well know. So the prospects of bridging and connecting Mauka and Makai would be underground, very expensive. overhead, some visual aesthetic concerns, as well as costs, or at grade. And at grade would mean that we would have perhaps wider, very distinct crossings that would celebrate and connect at a particular area, such as Ward Warehouse to Kewalo Basin Harbor, as well as at Cook Street to the Gateway Park, which would then serve as a natural connection. So it's practical. Underground is expensive. Overhead is also likely and with other costs, and so you would likely have to do it at grade. It's our expectation that approximately the mix between qualified income and market housing would be about 60-40. We think that's 60 for market and 40 for qualified income. We would suggest to you that that ratio is very favorable to what's desired or experienced in other neighborhoods, and I'd suggest to you that it actually achieves more. With respect to what defines affordability, I'll note for you that 80% of Hawaii's households are at 140% of area median income or less. And that is our target population, and I have a chart there showing the mix of housing and the AMI that it seeks to serve.
It's a general issue, homelessness in the community.
We have ongoing discussions with OHA as well as interested stakeholders to develop some reaction plans. And those reaction plans are to, one, I think it's called compassionate disruption, with respect to providing certain efforts to, again, move people along and remind them that it is the streets are for all of us. So partnership.
We have the homeless shelter, which I mentioned to you. I think the homeless problem is a community-wide problem. It's government and the people and the landowners. I mean, we need to solve this problem. And
we had electronic Q&A by Alex Burgo and livesift.com. There were more than 90 questions. We could only get through a fraction of them in the program, but we'll pose others during talk shows on the subject going forward.
Honolulu is building a city within a city and is reinventing public space and planning. It behooves us to know all about what's going on and participate in the process by which these things are decided.
The various vectors and stakeholders of Kakaako are coming together in a public conversation on the subject. We must allow and encourage the conversation and the process.
The Downtown Forum is part of that process and was followed the very next day by a meeting at the American Institute of Architects, AIA, to explore their vision for Kakaako.
ThinkTech has dedicated a live stream talk show at 3 to 4 p.m. on Wednesdays to continue the conversation. We want to know everything about Kakaako. See thinktechhawaii.com for that program.
We've had talk shows with the forum moderator Steve Petranek, Scott Wilson, chair of the Urban Design Committee of AIA Honolulu, and Joe Ferraro of Ferraro Choi, architects who redesigned the IBM building in Kakaako.
What we do and don't do in Kakaako will have a ripple effect for our city planning and development, not only in Oahu, but around the state. We can't afford to make mistakes there.
Kakaako is the neighborhood that will demonstrate the essence of Honolulu in the 21st century, the integration of transit-oriented development, and the place where our younger generation can find creativity and a new home.
If you want to know more about the politics of public spaces, Google the remarks of Michael Kimmelman, art and architecture critic for the New York Times at Yale on April 2nd. Or take a look at Happy City, the best-selling book by Charles Montgomery, available on Amazon. It's not only that Kakaako is being reinvented, planning, politics, and public participation are being reinvented. Together now, we have the opportunity to reinvent the design of our city and the process by which it takes place. Let's make it happen.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you missed a show or want to replay or share any show, they're archived on YouTube.
Visit ThinkTechHawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be part of our live audience in our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Contact jay@thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
On Thursday, July 22nd, ThinkTech will join with the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum to present the Hawaii Clean Energy Day program for 2014, which will also be at the downtown Laniakea YWCA. You can sign up to attend this program on hawaiienergypolicy.hawaii.edu. And now here's this week's ThinkTech Commentary.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard, and this is a ThinkTech Commentary. I'd like to talk about stress. When was the last time you went a day or a week without feeling stress? When you weren't on vacation, that is. Well, even on vacation, there's a lot of stress. To have fun, pack in all the sightseeing and relaxing you possibly can. So, when was the last time you went a day or a week without feeling stress, period? Interesting question, eh? I asked a friend what he thought of when I said the word stress, and he told me it's a control thing. Trying to maintain control while losing it. Stress is like being on a bicycle and realizing it's moving faster than you can pedal, and that's a horrible feeling. Yes, I agree, that's how stress feels, but that's not usually what is actually happening. When you realize you're moving faster than you can pedal, you're out of a certain amount of control on a bicycle, and if you don't react quickly, you could fall and seriously injure yourself. But in real life, our stress is generally related to fear without physical threat. It's fear of bad performance, missed deadlines, disappointment, embarrassment, etc. All rooted in the primal, visceral fear of ostracism or removal from the clan, being kicked out of the cave and left to die alone. Remembering that we probably won't be kicked out of the cave and left to die alone doesn't always alleviate the stress. But if you can remember that, it will take the edge off a bit. Here's something else to remember. There are fricative consonants that seem very different to us, but are nearly identical physically. P and B, F and V, and S and Z are examples. We form those couples the same, but the slight difference in them is whether or not we choose to add voice or air. P, B, F, V, S, Z. See what I mean? Now hold on, I'm going somewhere with this. Stress and excitement are like those fricative couples. They're physically manifested almost identically. Adrenaline rushing, muscles charged, attention broad. It's the same picture. The difference is the frame we put around it. So whether you're excited about your upcoming vacation or worried about a looming deadline, the physical stress is the same. And we can choose how we frame it. You might even use all of that energy and broad focus to your advantage. Does that help at all? It helps me if I can just remember to think about it that way when I'm stressed out. Back to my friend on a speeding bicycle for a moment. It's funny that he used that analogy because I know the sudden horrible feeling, but when you're going faster than you can pedal, all you need to do is brake a little and you'll catch up. Until we remember that, we have a few heart-thudding moments though. Well, if all else fails, when we see someone else who is stressed, maybe we can just remind them to brake a little or enjoy the rush. We won't kick you out of the cave. I'm Donna Blanchard, and this has been a ThinkTech Commentary. We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Castle & Cook Hawaii, 160 years of investing in Hawaii, creating communities and providing for the needs of our state.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry to make better informed property investment decisions.
The Foreign Trade Zone, bringing the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs.
Galen Ho, a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
Hawaii Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island.
Hawaii Energy, your energy conservation and efficiency program created to help Hawaii residents and businesses adopt a clean energy lifestyle.
The Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, incorporating diverse perspectives into the design of a forward-looking energy strategy.
Hawaii Gas, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Hawaii Pacific Health, bringing technology and teamwork together to transform healthcare in Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency.
The Scheidler Family Foundation, supporting many educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech.
Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
Definitely, Donna. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com, be a guest or volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Donna Blanchard. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.